Hello there, people of the internet. I want to talk about the top 5 military surplus calibers that you can find out there to run through whatever military surplus gun it is that you have and or want and or decide to use. And the top 5 for hunting. So there's a lot of different speculations that goes into what to consider whenever you're going to go out on a hunt and what it is that you're going to be doing. And some things are going to be better than other, but a lot of your military surplus calibers are going to be pretty much on par with one another. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to 7.62x54R, which a lot of people have used for hunting, but it's not going to make my list here. I think it's a fantastic little cartridge. It's a 150 grain bullet moving at about 2,800 feet per second, and through something like a Mauser rifle, this would be a really good platform. The issue is, since the 7.62x54R round is a military cartridge that is still in use to this day, a vast majority of the rounds that you're going to find in this chambering, they're going to be full metal jackets of some kind. Way more often than not, they're going to be light ball 148 grain full metal jackets, or maybe even military surplus ammo, like those old 440 round spam cans of ammo. And those types of bullets are just not all that great for hunting purposes. You definitely want some kind of soft point or expanding round. They do exist in 7.62x54R, but they're far less common than full metal jackets, and that is just one of the reasons why this cartridge did not make the cut for this particular video. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our number one. I have to move this out of my way to grab our number one. So our number one military surplus cartridge that you're going to find that's going to suit you really well for hunting is going to be 30-06, and I think that goes without saying. I think 30-06 is the most popular hunting cartridge here in the United States. Now, the M1 Grand right here is designed for M2 ball ammunition, and you don't want to run modern commercial ammo through it, but there's a ton of 30-06 rifles out there that you can run modern commercial ammo through. Either that, or you can just update the gas system in this thing and you'll be fine. But the modern 30-06, you're looking at a 150 grain bullet moving at about 3,000 feet per second. That's a heavy pill moving very fast, and that should be able to put down pretty much anything in North America. There's very little that the 30-06 would not be able to do. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to bet that it could probably do everything. Shooting out to long ranges, I have seen shots made with 30-06 out to like 1,000 yards. It's absolutely doable. It's absolutely capable. Depending on your twist rate and your bullet weight and the length of the bullet that you're actually using based off of how it's composed on the inside, and etc., that's going to determine how accurate you are and at what ranges you can shoot. But by a pretty huge margin with 30-06, you're going to be seeing a lot of 150 to 180 grain bullets. Sometimes you'll come across heavier bullets, like all the way up to 220 grains. And by a pretty huge margin nowadays, since all the military surplus 30-06 is pretty much gone off of the surplus market, you're going to be finding a lot of soft point hunting ammunition, which is one of the reasons why I think 30-06 is one of the best military surplus cartridges out there that you're going to be running through a rifle, going at whatever game it is that you're going to be coming up against. Because there's a lot of ammunition out there that is specifically designed for hunting, because I think we've gotten past all the full metal jackets and whatnot. Alright, up next is very similar to 30-06 that I'm sure everybody sees coming. This is a 308. In this particular case, this is a Oviedo Mauser chambered in 7.62 SETME, which is, I mean, it can handle 7.62 NATO just fine, and 7.62 NATO is outlandishly similar to 308. Now, I'm going to go and use those interchangeably, but for the sake of argument, yes, I know they're not interchangeable. I appreciate you letting me know. The entire world knows that they're not technically the same cartridge. Anyone who is in the gun community anyway. But all of that being said, for the sake of this particular argument of what would be good for hunting purposes, we're just going to say 308/7.62 NATO. I have pulled a lot of 7.62 NATO bullets and loaded like soft point projectiles on top of them. You can find a lot of different hunting bullets out there in the 308 chambering, just because the 308 diameter bullet is so universal with American firearms. There's a lot of different ammunition out there that is, well, there's a lot of 308 ammunition out there that has a lot of different bullet types available to it. And there's a lot of different firearms out there that are chambered in 308/7.62 NATO. You can just, there's a lot of different options out there for you. And on top of that, you're looking at what, a 150 grain bullet moving at about 2,800 feet per second, which is about on par with, say, 7.62 by 54R. But that's not exactly a powerhouse of a cartridge. It's not a 300 Win Mag, but I would still say, especially with proper bullet selection, that is a very capable little cartridge going at some pretty respectable distances. The big issue that 308 runs into is whenever you start using heavier bullets. Like, you don't want to throw a 220 grain bullet into a 308 just because it's not going to be able to effectively push that bullet like, say, a 30-06 would be able to. It'll still push it, but you're going to lose a lot of velocity with that just because the 308 is just not designed for running those big, heavy pills. But all of that being said, you can still do a lot with those 150, 180 grain bullets from that 308 rifle. It's a very, very common hunting cartridge for a reason. Alright, up next on our list is going to be 303 British. We are pretty much past all of the 303 British surplus out there on the market. There is some stuff that pops up every now and then, but by a pretty huge margin, most of the 303 British rounds that you're going to find out there on the market for sale are going to be modern produced rifle rounds. And a lot of those are going to be soft point hunting rounds. They're either going to be a 150 grain bullet or a 174 grain bullet. Those are by far the most common 303 British rounds that you're going to find. And those rifle rounds are on par with that of, say, 308 and 7.62 by 54R. It's a 150 grain bullet moving at 2,800 feet per second. And from something like a 303 British rifle, these are exceptionally accurate rifles. On top of that, they're extraordinarily well-made rifles. On top of that, if you find yourself in a situation where maybe there's a herd of boar or pig, or you got to do multiple shots going downrange, these have external magazines, so you can actually get more magazines and store ammunition inside of those magazines versus trying to load through like a stripper clip. On top of that, it's a cock-on-close action with a very short bolt throw here. And that very short bolt throw allows you to be able to cycle the action exceptionally fast, so you just have that option to be able to send a lot of lead downrange at a pretty rapid pace. The 303 British, it's a good, powerful round. It's not exactly, like I said before, it's not exactly a Magnum cartridge, but you should still be able to do a fair amount with a 303 British rifle like that right there. Alright, up next on our list, I'm going to say 8mm Mauser, and I think 8mm Mauser is probably one of the best hunting rifle cartridges out there. Way more often than not, you're going to see it probably around 175 to 200 grain bullets. You might find some 150 grain bullets out there, but on the commercial market, it's going to be between 175 and 200 grain. And there's a reason for that. The 8mm Mauser is a fatter bullet than that of, say, 30-06. And as a result, you can increase the weight of the bullet without getting a really, really long bullet just because it's a larger diameter. It's a 323 diameter bullet. Now, out at really long ranges, you start to see some issues with ballistic coefficients, and it has some issues with drifting in the wind and whatnot. But for the most part, most of us aren't exactly shooting at those long distances. On top of that, if you are shooting within distances to where you don't have to worry about things like that, the increased bullet diameter, the increased surface area of that bullet does help aid in the transfer of energy onto your target that you decide to go ahead and shoot at. A lot of bullets, they're designed to expand. Your hunting bullets are designed to expand, but the ones that already have a greater surface area are going to expand more and dump more of that energy onto your target. That's one of the reasons why, say, a 30-06 round will expand significantly more than, say, a 243 round. There's just more surface area on that bullet to be able to expand and thus transfer more energy and do more damage onto your target. I think the 8mm Mauser round is a fantastic rifle choice to be able to put down literally anything. There's very little that 8mm Mauser round could do or could not handle. here in North America. All right, for our last one, I'm going to grab the Oviedo Mauser again, just because this is a very common Mauser type that you're going to see chambered in this particular cartridge. I'm going to say 7mm Mauser. I think the 7mm Mauser is severely and cripplingly slept on. It is a dramatically good cartridge, especially for the time period that the cartridge came out at. So anyone who knows anything about ballistic coefficients knows that smaller, skinnier bullets tend to do well, especially as they are longer. Like your long, skinny bullets tend to cut through wind extraordinarily well. And 7mm Mauser is one of those skinny style of bullets. It's a .284 diameter bullet, but it has enough surface area and enough mass to be exceptionally good on targets. I've read stories of people using the 7mm Mauser to hunt like big game like elephants and whatnot over there in Africa, and I'm sure someone's gonna chime in the comments talking about that particular event with that particular cartridge. But the 7mm Mauser is one of those severely underrated, underappreciated rounds, just because it's overshadowed by 8mm Mauser, because most of your Mausers out there on the market by a huge margin are chambered in 8mm Mauser, and 7mm has just kind of fallen to the wayside because 8mm is more powerful. But dude, it is severely slept on. It is a great little cartridge that can touch out to some pretty significant distances and have some pretty incredible sleek bullets inside of it, especially the modern day. If you use like a proper bonded bullet, or say a solid copper bullet or something like that in the 7mm Mauser, you can achieve some pretty incredible stuff on your hunting trip. I would not disregard the 7mm Mauser as an antiquated round by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, many of our modern rounds are about on par with the capabilities of that old school cartridge. So there we go, folks. That is my top 5 list of military surplus hunting rounds, and I think it's a pretty gosh darn good, solid list. I'm sure a lot of people are going to have their own things to chime in about, and that's fine. This right here is obviously an opinionated list. We're allowed to have different opinions. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garrett. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.